This is Miss Lizzie, and I want to welcome you to the Queen Lizzie podcast. Together, we will go through the history of Rosewood, Florida, and watch as the once prosperous town rises out of the bloodshed, fire, and ash to reveal the people, the memory, and the legacy of Rosewood. Watch every Thursday on Facebook and YouTube, or listen to our story on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Hello, everybody. I am Lizzie Polly Robinson Brown Jenkins, representing not only the Rosewood Foundation, but the personal testimonies and history of cherished friends and family. You are now watching the Queen Lizzie podcast 150. Today we are talking with Seth Harp. Hello and welcome, Seth.
Lizzie, it's my honor and my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I am honored to have you, and we have a lot to talk about today. And I'm going to turn it over to you. Take it away.
Yeah, I am a 7th grade civics teacher at Lincoln Middle School. I also teach world history. Before that, I was in broadcasting for nearly 3 decades.
Really?
All right, I started off my career at WKZO Radio in Kalamazoo, Michigan, is where I started professionally. I actually started when I was 15 in broadcasting. I'm 47 now. How about that?
How about that?
I started off, I played football and baseball, and I broadcast our high school basketball games.
Yes.
The big man upstairs only made me 5'9", Lizzie. I wasn't going to be a basketball player by any stretch of the imagination. So I played football and baseball and broadcast basketball, got into, I guess politics as we started to elevate up and got closer. It was when I was a senior in high school, it was the Bill Clinton-Bob Dole election. So I became quite active in that. And then I went to college at Western Michigan University, started work at WKZO Radio, and it's amazing how this works. My first day at the station, 9/11. How about that?
Right. Wow.
How crazy is that, right?
That
so
is
that,
crazy.
and I also was one of the youngest talk show hosts in the history of that company. At 22 years old, I started my own political talk show host there, my gig at the Seth Harp Show. And you look back on it, it's hard to believe that it's been 25 years, but it has been 25 years, and I've worked my way, God willing, here to the state of Florida. I've been here over a decade now, and like I said, I teach civics and world history at Lincoln Middle School, and I'm running for the Democratic nomination for the Florida 3rd Congressional District here in Gainesville, November 3rd. So there we go.
All right, Lincoln High School?
Yeah, Lincoln Middle School.
Lincoln Middle School, it was my high school.
That's what you're telling me. It was your school, huh?
I graduated in 1957, the first class, awesome school. So if you were walking in my footprints, you have to be an awesome man.
Well, thank you very much. And I try to teach, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit more. I try to teach those young men and women the importance and the gravity of the hallway that they walk in.
Yes.
The people that sacrificed, their life, liberty, and their pursuit of happiness at times.
Thank you.
Right? To lay the groundwork for them to have this great experience and these great teachers. We have a fantastic principal there by the name of Darren Jones. It does amazing work, and I'm honored to work there. I really, really am.
And you're going to have to invite me to speak to your class during Black History Month.
Will do.
Okay.
Guaranteed.
Or before.
Yes, whenever you want to come in, they could use to hear voices of older generations.
Yes.
And it's fascinating because I sometimes forget how I was at that age. Yes. And then I also see it's tough to make things relatable to kids regardless. And in a world today where access to phones and not appreciating things, but I'll tell you a couple of my teaching methods and things that we did to drive home equality over Black History Month and some of the things that we did.
Perfect. I am excited to be working with you. Well, when I come out and speak, working with you. I can't endorse you, but I can present you.
Yes.
And I want you to know that I have invited your...
Sure, absolutely.
Yes. Because we need to know what you plan to do.
Yes.
We need change. I am so tired, and I can say this on my own from Lizzie. I'm tired. I'm fed up with the hate. I'm fed up with killing our children. I'm fed up with the wars that kill our children. Children, especially kids. I don't like when adults are killed, but the kids, I don't tolerate that. I don't like it. And I'm speaking for a lot of people. We don't want to see anyone killed, but especially these babies. These are our babies.
Yeah,
Not given an opportunity.
yeah, and people react the way you treat them.
Exactly.
And the fascinating thing that I have learned over the course of the last few months, and I'm a big numbers guy. So the fact that we spend nationally $4 billion more a year on prisons than schools.
Exactly.
We spend $4 billion more a year constructing prisons
Exactly.
than building and improving schools. That number right there should just blow your mind. That and then other things along the way too in terms of knowledge, and the fact that 26% of K through 12 students, 26%, their only hot meal of the day is in that school.
In that school.
So you would say, well, it takes a village. When Hillary Clinton said that 30
Yes.
years ago,
Yes.
it takes more than a village. It takes an entire community, a county, a state. It takes everyone
Everyone
to
working
instill
together.
pride, respect, and dignity. And it's part of my platform. It's called the Fuel Program. And every K through 12 public school student in America will never have to pay a penny to eat lunch at school if I'm elected. So, yes.
I like that. I like that. And they talk about public schools and closing public schools. I attended a public school. I remember walking at age 5, 3 miles one way to school in the morning. When I got there, so young, so tired. You know what they did? They put us on the floor on a pallet so that we could rest. Okay. Sometime I guess it was 12 o'clock when we were able to get up and do our work. In spite of all of that, we still got an education, public school, taxpayers' money. But now they want what do they want to do with our taxpayers' money? They want to give it to the private school. I hope y'all hear me out there. We don't like that. That's taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
Okay, so use it to keep our public schools open and professionally operated. We got good teachers.
Yes.
We got
some of the best.
I know.
I've learned more from my fellow colleagues this year than I probably learned in college in terms of just expertise and knowledge and life experience. And it's so interesting that you bring up that dichotomy between public and private. I don't begrudge anyone if they want to send their
Right.
son or daughter or grandchild to a private school. That's fine.
Yes.
But public tax dollars
Yes.
go to public initiatives.
Thank you.
End of story.
The end of story.
End
Did
of
you
story.
all hear?
Public tax dollars go to public initiatives. End of story.
End of
you want to
story.
privatize your thing? Go for it. I don't begrudge anyone, but yes,
Exactly.
public schools are the cornerstone and the bedrock of our country.
And they are the best.
Yes.
I went to a public school. I think I'm one of the best. Okay. My mom and dad, both 8th grade scholars, they could not go to school after 8th grade. Cut off for them
Yes.
years ago. Geniuses, both of them.
And one of the things I tell people too about this, that when you do graduate, when you do open that door and exit the school system and head out there into the real world, life is like a public school, not a private institution.
Exactly.
The people that you are going to work with, grow old with, live with, teach with, rally with, everybody that you're going to spend in your life that you are going to be a part of. That is where you learn those skill sets for life in a public school setting, not in a private school where everything.
Exactly.
A public school, it puts a little grit in your coffee, if you will. So yes,
I know. And the kids get along. I remember public school, like you say, in college. I went to college. It was my best experience going to college. I went to a very small college because I came from a very small community, Archer, on a farm. I was a farm girl. But going to college, 400 plus students in that college, all family. Okay, like you said, Hillary said, it takes a village to raise a child. That's our word. Okay, that's our terminology. But she has my permission to use it.
Yes.
Because it's true.
Yes.
It took all of us working together, coming from different households, different values, but we all came together and we knew we had a job to do. My dad was a farmer, sharecropper, not rich. two of us, my sister and I, were in college at the same time. He had to borrow money from Blazer Finance to send us to college, but it worked. Okay, two boys. He bought a farm to make sure he kept our farm going. The boys stayed home, but they made sure the girls went to college. Okay, that is the way we. And I have so many cousins back then from Archer. The girls were sent to college. The boys stayed on the farm. Okay. That's important. That's important, and that's what we did in order to make it rock and roll. And here I am today. We still rocking and rolling. Okay.
And I think you're right. I think it's so important this too the things that you just hit on there. That, and I tell my students this all the time. Like, why do we need to know this? Why do we need to know this? And I tell them, if you are smart, if you know things, I can teach you anything. If you try, if you're knowledgeable. If somebody comes in you may want a job just as much as the next person. And if you both show up and one of them is more well-versed and intelligent and is able to understand the different sections of town in Gainesville, if you're going to be a delivery driver and all of a sudden you said, yeah, I grew up on the east side. I have friends over by Kanapaha Gardens, but you know what? I also know people, out in Newberry. All of a sudden, if I'm hiring a delivery driver, oh boy, you know the area. Exactly. So it's all, I always tell people, I said, the more well-versed and knowledgeable you are, the more opportunities you have in life.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. I have to agree. And I think we are doing the right thing by reaching out to you, and you're coming in and you're sharing with us what you are going to do and how you want to make sure the direction we hit. We need change also. We need change. I don't have a problem with change. Change is who we are. History is who we are. Let's change. If things are not working or doing what we wanted to do, we need to change. I work extremely hard. I am the precinct chair at Archer, and I have been for years. I make certain the people in Archer know about voting. If they don't vote, I will ask them, are you registered? Some of them will tell, oh, yeah, I'm registered, Auntie. I'm registered, cuz. I said, well, I have access to the van. Let me check this van to see. Well, you know what? I may not have voted in the last year or two. I catch them right there. And they know I will do that. So last time we voted, I think Archer was the highest, had the highest percentage of voting in the county. But I stay on them. I know everybody. They know me. Okay, so we got it going on out there in Archer, and I want the rest of y'all to hear us. We need to register everybody to vote. I remember when Barack Obama was running, 3 of us for 4 days a week, from 2 to 4, or maybe 4 to 6, we walked. We accessed all 2,500 residents in the Archer area that were eligible to vote. One person gave us a real hard time and said, get out of my yard. Everybody else, they were pleasant. They were nice. We don't know who they were, but they were receptive. That's important. Yeah. And when people ask me, say, Liz, do you think they are going to change the voting or try to? They cannot scam voting. You know why? If you are a Democrat, Republican, Independent, and you work at those polls, those people take that oath. They stick to it. They are not going to allow you or us, okay, to mismanage voting. Do you agree?
Oh, I agree. And I'm glad you bring this up because we just went over this in class 2 weeks ago. And we were talking because we do like current events and what's going on. And I always try to tie things into the back end of the present. And we had just gone over last month the 19th Amendment. Susan B. Anthony, the right to vote, suffrage, women's suffrage. And then we'd gotten into the 24th Amendment as we look back on Jim Crow and poll taxes and things of that nature, right? The grandfather clauses, everything that they could do in their power to prohibit African-American men and women from voting. So as I was teaching this and going over this, then one of the students in their class said, "What, Mr. Harp, what's the SAVE Act? What?" And I'm like, wow, okay, good for mom and dad for watching programs or grandparents for watching programs that, okay, this kid's learning something. They're actually talking about things at home. And I tried to explain to them that the core fundamental issue is this. Nobody begrudges IDs to vote, driver's licenses to vote. You actually have a voter registration card that you got when you registered to vote. The issue with that is the SAVE Act, it's anti-women. It's anti-women, Lizzie, because if you are a married woman that has changed your name and you do not have a passport, you have your birth certificate, but it's a different last name because you were married. So then you now need to go buy a passport, and you have to pay for that. Paying to vote is what the 24th Amendment removed because it is a poll tax. Now, the difference is, of course, that poll tax was designed to diminish African American participation in the Deep South. But now it's designed to have women. I love my mom and my sisters.
Right.
Their right to vote shouldn't depend on them going down to the post office and spending $180 to get a passport. It is in the Constitution that every single one of us, when we turn 18, have that right as American citizens. You shouldn't pay for it. So you're teaching the young men and women that and asking them, do you think your mother and grandmother should be allowed to vote? Yeah. It's important.
It's the only time we are equal in America, when we vote.
Yes.
We have the same right, okay? The only time, and voting you all is so important. My dad would, mom, one of them say, what are you living for if you don't vote?
Yeah.
The only time we are free, equal, not free. The only time we are equal. And I love voting.
Yes.
And I will continue to support it, okay?
Yes.
All right, it's about time for our first half. We are going to head to a quick break, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
I am Black History.
I am Rosewood Black History.
I am Florida and America's Black History.
And you are too.
January 1st, 1923, the KKK insurrectionists attacked Rosewood, killing 5, burning it down.
Because a white woman lied and cried, a black man assaulted me. Rosewood redevelopment is on its way.
Want to help? Visit rosewoodflorida.com.
Welcome back to Queen Lizzie Podcast, brought to you weekly from the Steve Spurrier Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We are here with Seth Harp. The Queen Lizzie Podcast is brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union, live from the Meldon Law Gator Studios at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We are back, and today, as I said, we are with Seth Harp, who is running for
U.S. Congress, Florida, 3rd Congressional District.
Okay.
Yes.
That's his story, and he's sticking
Yeah,
to it.
that's yes. And coming up here in April 9th, it'll be 1 year since we announced our candidacy. So
Really?
yeah.
So you have an anniversary?
So we have a big anniversary. Yes.
All right. Okay, so I'm not encouraging you.
Yes.
I'm not endorsing you, but I want people to know who you are. If you are running and if you win, you are going to represent us, and we need to see your face and know who you are, and we can decide on our decision.
Yes, I liken myself as, and I do. I'm a history teacher, so we learn in this country what works and what doesn't work, and we become this massive melting pot of ideas and culture. We get our Constitution from the Greeks. That's what we model it after. Our Senate comes from the idea of Rome. Our Justice Department comes from England. We are this awesome melting pot in terms of how we've created this structure. And when it comes to art and culture, all the different ethnicities and backgrounds coming together to form this great nation. And you have to ask yourself, the people that we have elected, are they representing the whole pot or just what's on their shelf? And if you are elected for the people, I've always said this, once you run and you become elected, you don't belong to you anymore.
Exactly.
You belong to everybody
Us.
that voted for you. And that's how I plan on not only running this campaign, but how I will serve in office once I get there. So it's a great endeavor in being a civics teacher and understanding how the nation works and why it works the way it does, and things in the past that we have done to make it successful. I was talking about this the other day when I was talking about FDR's New Deal.
Yes.
That was able to stabilize us during World War II and allow the greatest time of prosperity in American history right into the 50s. But then you follow that up with Harry Truman's Fair Deal, which is the GI Bill and allows
Yes.
our armed servicemen to have women have an education. And then President Kennedy, his New Frontier, which space and science. And what do you know? We're going back to the moon
Yes.
this week. At least we're going around it. But all these individuals that were strong democratic men that did things to grow communities and give power back to the people is
Exactly.
the direction that we need to head.
Exactly. And when they say we are the people,
Yes.
it's who we are.
Yes.
And I appreciate what you just said because it's so true. I remember I lived through FDR. I was a kid, but I remember the Jim Crow law. I was a kid then. I remember I lived it through my parents. And I remember when he was elected, I was a little kid, I think like 1948 or something like that, when somebody was elected. But anyway, I remember the good time. Well, I don't know if they were good, but they were better. Okay, it was about progress. Okay, and changing the tapestry for the best, I believe.
Yes.
And as you talk, I hear you, and I'm glad you are saying what you are saying. And I want to add this: if anyone out there running against you,
Yes.
campaigning against you, I want you to hear it from me. You are welcome to get in touch with me, okay, and be on my podcast. And I will say and I will say the same thing to you. Okay, if you are interested, let me know. I don't want anybody to say, "Oh, I was not invited." You are invited.
Yes, and
Okay.
I said this early on in the campaign, Lizzie, when people are telling me, well, this person may run, this person may run.
Yes.
I said, I hope 30 people run.
Yes.
That's what democracy is.
Exactly.
Right?
We need change.
People run, and then y'all get to pick who you think would
Exactly.
best represent you, and then we have a job to do. And the beautiful thing about our country is, at least the position I'm running for, House of Representatives, if you think that I am failing or not doing the job that you put me there to do, in 2 years, you get to make another decision on that.
And how
So
many counties are involved?
there's 12 counties in our race.
12.
No other district in the state of Florida has 12 counties to
Wow.
cover. So we're all the way south Marion, south of Ocala. We have half of the county of Marion, all the way up to the border, up through Baker. And then it
Really?
does this little puzzle piece at Lafayette, circles around through Gilchrist. And it's a lot of ground to cover. And it's a heavy lift, and we're glad to do it.
So your homework is District 3.
District 3, yes.
Okay. Google District 3 and find out if you are in
Yes.
the county
Yes.
to vote for District 3.
Yes.
That's your homework assignment. This is going to be fun, okay? And as I have said, I am an advocate for getting the vote out. That is so important. The only time we are equal in America is when we vote. That's the only one time ever you are equal when we vote. Think about it.
Yeah. Ballots have blindfolds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter. At the end, it just, you put it in, you scan it, everyone counts the same.
Right.
And I, with being a civics teacher, I try to instill in the young men and women the importance of this, because what you teach them is, through the Greek system of democracy, how we were different than them when we were building our country is the Greeks would punish people that didn't vote. They would punish them. They would publicly shame them. It was a crime not to vote. Here in the country, where once you turn 18, it's your constitutional right. We're still only at about a 40% clip on the
Exactly.
high end of people that participate. And I always tell people this, 40% participate in voting, but 100% of you have to participate in paying taxes.
Exactly.
So,
Why not?
or any other type, or your roads, the roads that you drive on, the schools that your children attend, that's all generated through taxpayer dollars, your money. So you should allocate where that money goes to. And I'm just a firm believer in building things up through the structure of families into communities, because without the small pockets, it doesn't work either. I was teaching the students a couple weeks ago. I call it my Trinity of Equality. It's how we ended Black History Month.
Okay.
And what it was Dred Scott into Plessy versus Ferguson, connected at the top by Brown versus the Board of Education.
Now, who is Dred?
Dred Scott was a free black man.
Okay.
From Missouri. He had moved away.
Okay.
And this is he moved away in the early 1850s, late 1840s. And in that time, it's back when you had the Missouri Compromise, Kansas-Nebraska Act, and the whole thought process, if every time they added a free state to the United States, they had to add a slave state to balance it out.
Okay.
So Missouri was the central stage for that. Dred Scott wanted to go back to Missouri. He was born free in Missouri when it was a territory. He wanted to go back, and he argued, once free, always free. I'm a free man no matter where I travel in the United States. If I'm granted my freedom, even if I go into a slave state, I should be free. The Dred Scott decision, the Supreme Court ruled against him and said, if you go back to Missouri, you can be returned to a state of slavery, even though he had never, ever been a slave in his life. Once free, always free was his argument. So teaching the students, that was the first big part. And then you parlay into the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which were equality, freeing slaves, the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, all equal in the eyes of the law. Everybody's equal. Up until then, there were different rules on your race of how you were tried. So due process, everybody's equal under the law, rule of law. And then the 15th Amendment granted African-American men the right to vote. We wouldn't get to all women being able to vote for almost 60 more years. But we pivot that Dred Scott in the one corner of the triangle into the other corner, which is Plessy versus Ferguson, which comes in the late 1890s, which says, hey, look, separate's okay, but as long as they're equal, as long as we provide the same amount of funding to each school, we're fine. But then you get separate drinking fountains, separate restrooms, separate schools. One school dilapidated, one is state of the art. So separate but equal only works is if everyone is together. So then we use that in the lower right-hand corner of the triangle. And Miss Lizzie, we tie it all together at the top with Brown versus the Board of Education that in 1954 that strikes down Plessy versus Ferguson, that integrates the schools across the country. They know who Ruby Bridges is. They know all this because we were able to tie all three of those things. But it all starts with Dred Scott, that is basically the lighting of the fuse for the Civil War. And then, I call it my Trinity of Equality to let everyone know. And here's the beautiful thing, but also the scary thing about teaching that lesson. The beautiful thing is, 7th graders that I'm teaching didn't know that people used to be separated.
Really?
They
Yes.
don't know.
Yes.
They
that's
don't
true.
know. So
That's
that is a
true.
beautiful thing. But the scary thing is, they don't know that people used to be separated. They don't understand that this was a long process, and there were a lot of sacrifices that were made to make sure that this occurred. So yeah.
I know, because if I have nieces and nephews. When I talk about Rosewood, they know what I'm talking
Yes.
about. I don't have any children, and I say to them, okay, after me, would you like to be the person to carry on the history of Rosewood? And every one of them tell me, no, Auntie. And I said, why? It's too painful. They mean it. It's painful. They want to hear about it, but they don't want to do it. I said, well, I do. They said, you're good at it, but I don't want to. And I said, I didn't want to, but my mother said, you got to make sure the Rosewood history is preserved. And I have been doing it for 42 years, but it's very painful. I said to her, no.
Yeah, I wish, and this is one of those things that I probably should be talking to my union leaders about this, but I wish there were a course, and maybe there can be down the line, where there is just a Florida history course that talks about Rosewood, because
I'm working on it.
It's not in the curriculum, and this
No,
is
it's not.
This is going to fascinate you. When I was at school at Western Michigan University, I learned about it. They taught that. Part of our history course, Rosewood was taught.
Really?
Sam Carter, that was taught.
Really?
At Western Michigan University, because then they showed us the movie
Yes,
with Ving
yes.
Rhames and
Yes.
who else was in that? John Voight and a couple other people that have gone on to be pretty big stars in that as well. So it's one of those things that I remember learning about that
Yes.
and thinking, okay, well, what exactly happened here? And that's a history that, unbeknownst to me until that time, at the age of 21 years old, that I didn't know.
And
So-
my aunt was a school teacher. I want to say that.
Yes.
Survived the story.
Okay.
Survived the massacre. Told my mom, her sister, her story. And that's why my mom said, you got to keep this alive, because she was tortured. Okay. And I tell that story, and every time it is very painful. And I have to go home, decompress, take a nap, because it is painful. But my mother said, keep that story alive. I got to sing these verses for you because had it not been for John Wright, the train conductors, and the Levy County Sheriff, the people in Rosewood would have perished, because Cedar Key is a peninsula and Rosewood is adjacent to Cedar Key. So they could not have gotten out had it not been for the train conductors from Brightsville that worked out of Cedar Key. So let me sing you her last three verses. But before I do that, I want to remind you all, every weekend, please patronize brunch. The brunch here at Spurrier from 11 to 3. These are my sponsors. Spurrier, Meldon Law, Freddie Weeby, and Campus USA Credit Union. But this song says, to you from my mother, the Cedar Key train conductors were told to pick up in Rosewood. Standing by the tracks with the lantern, his young school teacher stood, waiting in desperation to carry out the sheriff's plans, rounding up the hidden survivors to board the midnight train. The sheriff and the store owner worked around the clock. Oh, Lord, informed the train conductors just when and where to stop. Pick up the men, women, and children who were hiding out and bring them to Archer, Florida, traveling the same old route. Bob Walker and John Wright took on a daring risk. Put the survivors on the train, Lord, and sent them off with a kiss. Notified the Gainesville families to be on the lookout for their kin. Told them the train was a-coming and told them exactly when. So that's the song she wrote.
I'm clapping around microphones, and I am beyond impressed. I am beyond. Please don't have me sing. I don't want to torture you. No, that's beautiful.
Okay, well, she told me I could not sing. But
no, it's beautiful.
12 verses or 13 verses, but I only did the 3 important ones to her. She said, don't allow people to attack you or attack the people that saved sister's life, her sister's life. And I make sure I let people know, had it not been for them, everybody is not bad. They did what they had to do in the time of emergency, urgency. They did that, and I appreciate them. But anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to
Beautiful. And you mentioned Rosewood and the fact that it was lost to history for decades.
Exactly.
Decades. And I always tell people this too, that truth has no temperature. It is neither hot nor cold. If it is sensitive to the touch, you're not prepared for it.
Yes.
So that the truth has no temperature. The
like
truth
that.
is the truth.
And it is the truth. And that's why I enjoy telling it, because I feel good about telling the truth.
Yes.
And the one thing that really disturbs me when people talk about Rosewood and give out misinformation, I will read them. Okay, don't do that.
Yeah, absolutely
it's
not.
Important. Okay.
Yeah. The truth is a powerful enough story on its own. You don't need to embellish it.
That's right. And people are doing it as we speak. But when I hear about it, I let them know, no. You're not Rosewood. You're a historian, but you're not Rosewood. Stay out of our business. I don't own the right to Rosewood, but I do own the right to making sure you tell it right or not at all.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, Queen Lizzie. And remember, Seth Harp for Congress. That's the website is sethharp.com. Check it out. If you think a 7th grade civics teacher should represent our community, just give it a look and tell me what you think. Okay. And I will say this on behalf of this podcast. I am continuously humbled, honored, and blessed to meet people daily and invite them to join in peace building, healing, and reconciliation through learning about the history of what you are doing, Lizzie. Rosewood is so important. And this will wrap up today's episode. On behalf of Queen Lizzie, I am Seth Harp. Until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye. Excellent.